I don't want people to listen to this thinking we're just John Wicks on motorbikes. It's easily scalable down. What's hard is scale up.
Welcome to the Circuit Magazine, the #1 source of information on protection matters, the industry-leading magazine for all security professionals who want to stay ahead of the game.
Mobile security on motorbikes for high net worth individuals. Today, Shaun West and myself are delighted to be speaking to Sebastien Bouchard, founder of 242 Security in London, but also this very, very interesting concept that he is proving, the mobile security unit on motorbikes, looking after primarily ultra high net worths, really expensive cars as they go through traffic, and of course the principals themselves. Shaun, this sounds like a John Wick or a Mission Impossible type movie. Is this an important topic?
It is. It's a very, for sure, interesting concept. I have worked with motorcycle outriders myself previously, and it does, gets the juices flowing when you've got the motorcycle outriders, escorting you through the traffic. It's very exciting, that your pulse levels up, gets the adrenaline going. So it's really interesting to hear from Sebastien how he's kind of niched down into this, what's brought him into offering this as a niche, because I don't see many companies out there doing it on a larger scale. So it'd be great to hear his thoughts. But yeah, for sure, very interesting topic indeed.
And do you think this is the type of thing that will spur every CP operative to go get their motorbike license and things like that? Is it going to be that exciting, or will it remain quite niche?
I think a service like this is going to be, I'd imagine, would remain quite niche. For the delivery service like this, you're not going to be taking on junior motorcycle riders. You're going to want someone who's had a license for a long time, who's had specific training in that area. I don't think it's a space for newbies at all.
And in that, I think that will be quite interesting to see the uses of it, because already I can see this sort of concierge service, involved, helping facilitate movement and parking and so on. But then there's also that security and preventative measure, especially with the moped gangs in London.
Yeah, I mean, for sure, it's a huge visible deterrent. Having motorcycle outriders outside your vehicle, but also I'm guessing they could be used in a low profile element as well, where they're not necessarily visibly attached to the vehicle, but they can be there, highly agile, able to react. But yeah, no, really interesting, and I can't wait to hear what Sebastien has to say.
Yeah, because I mean, if your principal is taking the latest BMW out, it's quite low profile, and I don't think this is for that. I think this is if they go, do you know what? I want to take a £2 million car out.
Yeah,
you're visible anyway. There's no hiding it. You're visible. You're making noise in a particular way. But yeah, this is exciting. Hopefully, we'll get lots of positive fan mail. Obviously, we don't. There will be people going, "Oh, the legal ramifications, or this and this and this." But I think this is a positive step and an interesting story for the podcast. So let's hear from Sebastien Bouchard and mobile security at motorbike outriders for high net worth individuals.
And now, let's meet one of the contributors to the Circuit Magazine.
Mobile security riders for high net worth individuals. Today, I'm delighted to welcome Sebastien Bouchard, founder 242 Mobile Security UK. It's a great pleasure to have you on. How are you doing?
I'm good. You?
Yes.
Thank you for having me.
Well, thanks for coming on. And, motorbikes, what a fun topic. And I think there's lots of preconceptions that we can get into. But let's start off with, what is the problem you're trying to solve?
And thank you for asking that. It's a specific problem that, it's moving away from London, but it started in the city of London right after the pandemic. So it's a recent problem. And you're aware of the moped gangs in London and now in south of France. They attack, mostly for jewelry or robberies on sidewalk. But they pivoted in 2022. They pivoted from the sidewalk to attacking luxury cars, supercars, hypercars, high value cars, because they're easier to spot at a distance. You can hear them. They don't have to hunt anymore. They wait at a corner. They see a high value car. Obviously, the person driving it, there's a big chance he's got jewelry on him because he's showing off wealth, right? So they started waiting for these cars to be immobile, so red light traffic, and we all know traffic in big cities, right? And they come alongside and they break the window. They're not after a carjack. They don't want the vehicle. They want the content within it. And they'll break the window at knife point, mostly stabbing or just threats. But the person will have to give their jewelry away or madame's bag or whatever. So that's how MSU 240 MSU came along. Is I wanted to fix it, and we'll discuss how I decided to fix it. And that's it. It is specifically for this problem. But then we can also go into how the MSUs, that's how we call it. So how the MSUs became a bigger part of my business. There's more use, and then there's use that's already in use, surveillance, advanced. It's easier to move in a dense city in a motorbike. But also we started using it as a chase car, a pair of riders chasing the conventional way. So having the extra muscle, following a client with a PPO. It's in certain instance, it's better to have your chase car on motorbikes. But really the focus was to have a tool against moped crime.
And what about you? Where does your passion come from? Are you a prominent BMX racer? I don't know.
Obviously, I've my first motorbike I purchased when I was 17, and I've been mostly on motorbikes for primary way of getting around for that many years. I'm 40 now. I've had all types of motorbikes. When you're younger, you got the Rockets and I had Harleys and now I promote that. And now I have a business that uses Ducati. I promote that.
Love it. And what about the completely uninitiated protector out there?
But let's for a second, let's stay with the passion. The reason really that the MSU exists is my background, special operation background in Canada, and all of us, the guys that make it to that level, there's a part of you that likes to fix problems. And, for 2 decades almost, I did it at governmental level. The government comes to your unit and has a problem, and you need to fix it as a crew, as a team. Put a problem on the table, and you sit together and you find a few options for the government, and they pick one and you execute it. So when I saw in 2022, after the Operation Venice in 2019 from the Met Police, 2022, I see the mopeds, pivoting to attacking cars. I saw that problem on TikTok. So a TikTok video of a Bugatti getting attacked by mopeds, and it gave me a challenge, and it brought me back to the career I missed so much. Now I have a company and a job, but my passion was that unit. And now you're telling me that there's a problem and nobody really have a fix. I will fix it. And I put my guys together, great guys, and we came up with a fix. So really the passion answer is I'm happy that I'm tackling a new problem and I'm trying to find a new way of fighting it.
Fantastic. Okay, well, especially in a city like London or any major city, it's gonna be really, really interesting to see the success of this. But what about the protector out there who's never really thought about a motorbike? They might have thought about protective driving, but they've never really thought about the implications of motorbikes. What should they better understand before engaging a service like yours?
Mm-hmm. You mean a client or someone that wants to ride?
Good question. Maybe both. Maybe the solo operator out there who's never thought about it, and then maybe a client who's thought, well,
Yeah.
why?
But a client that approaches us for our service, and by the way, got released. It was blessed by me and the team in 15 April of this year, so it's a brand new service. We have clients at the moment. It's slowly picking up because it gets to get out there, being the first one that has a dedicated motorbike escort service. Nobody knows about it. It's not like my phone will ring 10 times during our interview for bookings, because it's still at the implementation, networking, exposure phase. But I tell them that, look, there's many ways of protecting you while you want to drive your car, But the thing that my service give you is that you truly feel that you're alone in your car. You don't have to tell the riders where you're going. If you want to, it helps. But the riders are shadowing you. They're following you. Plus, they don't really need to know where you're going and what route, because their situational awareness, being on a motorbike instead of a vehicle, is higher. And if it happens that traffic in London, if you go through a amber light and we're stuck at the red, because it's legal to lane split, we'll be with you after our light turns green within seconds, right? So having a chase car, the conventional, if the guy has a proper protection team, yes, the boss takes his Lamborghini today. Okay, you're in the chase car, you're the security driver for the chase car, and then you need to kind of know where he's going, because you might lose him. This traffic, cabs getting in between you and the client, and it becomes a big beast. And I remember being chasing clients, and it's stressful because you're fighting traffic, you're trying to stay with him, and are you really protecting him? I don't tell that to the client. I don't say, hey, I just say, look, you're gonna feel alone. Drive your car, park it in Mayfair, go for lunch. The riders stay with your vehicle. We're not interacting with you in the same typical way as a close protection team. We can discuss that later, but the interaction is minimal, because I want to give them the feeling that they took their car out like a normal person, took it out of their house, went to show it off in Mayfair, stopped for lunch, get back in the car, go home. It's all happening. You feel alone, but there's always guys with you, 2 guys or 4.
And so what are we talking about in terms of skill set? Is it an EP professional who can ride? Is it a professional motocross rider who just thought EP was a good idea? Who is this person that rides?
The beautiful thing with the MSU is because it's a new way. Literally, we design experienced EP guys, and 242 Security UK only hires, and I can explain why, but I hire my kind that I'm used to. Okay, so special operation, mostly UKSF, because we're in the UK. So I hire guys like this, or retired high-level law enforcement. At the moment, on my team, I got a few CTSFO. So they retired from the Met, and they have the SIA level 3, and they're interested in doing CP, and their experience at it. So that's my team. The thing with MSU, though, is that what do you really need? Do you need a guy that was a racer that knows a motorbike handling and he's really good at riding, or you need an experienced conventional EP guy? And we that discussion took hours. We discussed it, and it comes down to we need a mix of both. So I didn't lower my standards. So all my guys that are approved, or that they do bookings on MSU, they do have tremendous experience in motorbikes. I'm not saying there's no requirement you need to be a gold standard racer. No, but you need to tell me that you've been actively on a motorbike for many years, right? And even, I'm not going to talk liability, but there's a certain amount of years to be liable to be riding for my company. There's an actual numbers of years and an age and experience level. So, yeah, a guy that freshly comes out of UKSF and doesn't have private EP experience, no problem. I will put him on the MSUs because it's different. He needs to learn from us. How are we going to do this? You understand? So that kind of answer your question is,
yeah,
I don't need the guy that has 2 decades of doing the conventional EP, because it's going to be a new world to him when he does it on MSU.
And why do you think this appeals to SF? Because on previous podcasts, people have mentioned that people coming out of SF have a great desire for variety. They might get bored easily, even.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly.
Why do you think this motorbike environment is more engaging for them?
Look, I wish I had my guys with me here, but I think they would say, because they told me, is because it's the word is it's different, and the reason that they joined the kind of unit that they did back in the day, it's because it was different, and they felt they were doing something that's not like everybody does, and that's one point of interest is it's a special skill. You got to learn it. A guy that been doing, I got one on my team that's been on the circuit for a long time doing EP, and he's retired from one of the units. And you're right, it gets boring. It's not a really adrenaline filled job that we do. Movies depict it the other way, but it's long hours waiting for your client, making sure he's safe. You're fighting with boredom. You're fighting with keeping your radar at 100% all day, looking for threats. But on an MSU booking, the fact that you're trying to detect threats as you're riding a bike in London, I tell you, I'd like you to experience it. It's fun. You're looking for threats. You're looking for mopeds. You're looking ahead, but you're also, one of the riders is dedicated to looking at mopeds that are about to come alongside our client, right? We're not stopping traffic. So these legal Uber Eats, Deliveroo riders, any type of riders, that we're not going to interdict them to ride by our client's call. But we need to be aware of, are they a threat? They're easy to spot, right? The moped gang. But there's a lot going on, and it keeps you entertained for the entirety of the booking. We're with a client for 10 hours. That's the most, that a typical booking for us is half day, full day, so 5 hours or 10 hours. A 10-hour booking of the guy really wants to drive, and he's showing off his car in London for 5 hours, and that happens. It's a long day, it's a busy day, but it's a fun day, because I just said it, I hire guys that love motorcycles, so doing a great, powerful motorbikes in London, doing what they like, protect people, but doing it a different way.
And so what can they actually do? I mean, we're more familiar with, use of force legislation and rules when it comes to dismounted individuals. What can a motorbike do? Block, trip up?
Yeah, that's interesting.
What?
So, I'm still concerned on, because there's no way to patent, and that's all legal stuff, but there's no way to patent my service. When it gets busy, and it will, this MSU service will get copied and will get taken by other bigger dogs than me to offer it to their clients, right? Trust me on this, it will happen. So today I'm not going to discuss the actual, this is how we do it, and then if there's a threat, but I'm willing to discuss the extent of how many procedures that we have. So the riders always in pairs. So the minimum you'll get from me is 2 riders. And you were talking threats, so let's go into threats. So there's different types of threats, right? Especially when you talk about expensive asset. In this example is the car. a car that's worth £2 million. You're protecting now the driver, but you're protecting the asset when you purchase a package with MSU. So how do you protect a car in traffic from literally getting bumped into by somebody that's not paying attention, right? So we have ways to do that legally. Everything I'm going to discuss here got checked with consultants from SEG, from the Met Police. I got guys from CTSFOs. They know all the rules that I need to know, right? So legally, we can make sure, and that's just positioning. But by positioning, you can protect the asset in traffic from not getting robbed. The client is really impressed when you say, wow, I feel confident because everywhere I try to turn or go or change lane, you guys are you're there to make sure it happens easy. I'm like, yes, that's what we do. When the client parks in Mayfair, he parallel parks. My knowledge, I'm not rich, right? I'm a blue collar. I don't own these kind of cars, but they all tell me they're excuse me for the language, but they're a bitch to park because the rear view, they can't see from their mirrors. They're large, they're wide. So when they park, we actually legally slow down or even block traffic for them to have they got all the time in the world. They do their parallel parking. We're not blocking enough to piss off people in London. That's not what I'm talking about. But we facilitate them moving lanes, parking, turning, and all within the Road Act. So we protect the asset. Again, that's a threat. It's just getting smashed into, and he's got an insurance claim. Then now let's talk about moped crime. First let's talk about lower level threat, activists, puncturing tires, throwing paint. We have procedures for that, right? Another thing that the clients appreciate, especially when they're parked, because the service is not only when you're on the move. The riders protect your asset while you're inside somewhere. So we ensure the client goes into the venue safe. An example is going for lunch at Annabelle's on Berkeley Square. We make sure that he gets to just conventional EP. We make sure he gets in the venue safe, but then we stay with the asset. There's no Instagrammer that sits on the bonnet to take a video or a selfie. There's no activist that comes and punch the tires of that vehicle, throwing paint, and all these type of low level crime. Now let's talk about mopeds. In my company, that you're talking about conventional EP or the MSUs, the most important thing to me, just like back in my old unit, is my guys. Okay, so without talking about specifics, my guys have a special armor that's literally designed and sourced and engineered by me with another company. They have a front plate and a back plate that's purchased, and I'm more than happy to say that the provider is PPSS. They make a perfect, for my guys, carbon fiber armor front and back plate that's blunt, stab and slash proof and puncture proof with the ice picks. My guys ride with this, okay? Because it's blunt protection. If they take a fall, it's better protection than just the normal riding gear available. And if they go against a knife, ice pick or machete or baseball bat, they're more protected. But they also there's other piece of gear that they're wearing that facilitate them taking on a moped riders that's armed with a blunt or edge weapon. Okay, and these mopeds, first of all, they will see, because we sell the product in an overt capacity first, and if the client pushes back, then it's easily scalable down to all the way to covert. But we try to sell the product to the client as an overt service. And if people go on the website, they'll see all my marketing is overt. Because we're also protecting, usually they don't push back when we say that we protect his asset, because having an overt posture deter moped to select that car, because it's going to be obvious that there's 2 riders or 4 protecting these vehicles, and they're not going to try. They're going to pick another car. So overt is important. Once let's say the client forced us to go in low vis or even covert, then there's a lot of situational awareness that's involved. So the riders, and because they're on a bike, they got better situational awareness. They just need to see it, just like conventional EP. You need to see the threat before it even reaches your client, right? And go ahead.
No, I was just thinking, because it seems like there's a rather interesting dynamic at play. If they are, some of the richest people in the whole world might choose to be completely covert and not show off some wealth. But yet there is that middle ground of high net worth individual who might fly their car in from the Middle East. We see those number plates. I even saw a California number plate last year. I was like, what's this, right?
Yeah, I see all.
And that kind of middle ground where they're actually up for showing off. They almost need overt security.
Yeah, and yes,
you know what I mean. Is that the target market? Because I can imagine really, really top echelon ultra high net worth. They don't want you to know where they are.
Exactly. But so let me just stop you there. And I told you that's my world, right? That I solely deal with ultra high net worth and high net worth. I love, like anybody on the circuit, I find it more entertaining and more challenge to do covert or low vis. So, and yes, on my typical close protection side of my business, we always recommend to go lower vis. It's better, it's safer, But we have clients that's all 242 London. That's my training name for close protection. That's how we protect them. But then they take the Pagani out, right? Even though this older gentleman is low vis, he needs to understand, and he does when I explain, that when the Pagani is out, it's not time to be low vis, because you're showing off wealth. You have a Pagani Veyron, or you have a Bugatti Veyron. You're not hiding in the public. This car is not low vis. It is now time to use a different tool to protect you and the asset by going over it, right? It's just the way to do it, because if there's an attempt on it, the damage. I was discussing with a potential client. He hadn't booked us yet, but he was sharing with me that a cab driver nicked the back left of his car, right? And that claim alone was £110,000 just for a scratch that me and you on our car would be, okay, you'll repaint one panel and it's £500 and you're sad. It was £110,000 to fix. He showed me it was like a 12-inch scratch. So he booked me, and I will ensure that doesn't happen. So he's saving the claim, right? So these clients understand. Okay. So for the short duration that he'll be in his vehicle and enjoying it by himself with no BG sitting next to him or a big chase car that's always stuck in traffic, he will have a bit of a higher posture, but he's already a higher posture with that vehicle. And then when he pulls it back in his garage, it goes back to how he's used to seeing security around him, and it's low vis. Does that answer your question?
It does, yeah, because, they have it, and they might not think they're showing off even. They might just be like, I'll just take it out for a spin. And they want that freedom. They want that freedom, but they do need protection.
And you're right. You're a smart man, though. You said it. There's a niche or an emerging. Actually, somebody was consulting with me and was telling me it's pretty emerging. Young money calls it. So there's more young millionaires, and these guys are a bit more show off and the jewelry, which is good for our market, right? Mm-hmm. We can't lie. These guys that like to have jewelry and watches, and the lady has big bags and clothes. And these guys, they do enjoy. And you know, I was referring to having 4 bikes, maybe 2 teams. Like our wording is 1 MSU, it comes in pairs. You book 1 MSU, it's 2 riders. You book 2 MSUs, it's 4 riders, right? You'd be surprised. There's a lot of, oh, can I get 4 guys? I'm like, yeah, you can, but now you just lost the freedom of going wherever you want, because the guys in front needs to know where you're going. You're following them. But they're like, no, it just looks so cool, right? It just looks so cool to have 4. It looks presidential.
But aren't they potentially clients that an EP operator does not want? Because like I remember out in the Middle East, some of the more wealthy people, they'd be rounding their Ghosts or their Bentley Malsans, or even they had some really pimped Maybachs, the old Maybachs. They were nicely pimped. But the younger wealthy people, as you say, had supercars and they crashed them.
Yes.
How can we reconcile that when you're doing your best to protect them, but they might not have control of their car?
Yeah, exactly. There's consulting involved. So I got 2 answers for that. That's how in depth we went with designing this. When you put a bunch of pros together, they really come up. And that wasn't from me, that was from my team. But so we got 2 options there, because it happens. These guys, get on the A40 and then just floor it or whatever. We consult them politely. We're like, look, we don't have your car. We have a high-powered motorcycle, but we can't really protect you if you're going that fast. So there's consulting there. So we're trying to help them to reduce the speed, at least during the booking. But that's like 1% at a time, because most of our bookings, it's central, and they're doing 20 miles, 30 miles, and that's not a huge problem. But the other thing is that if you ever come down the office, you'll see the bikes, but we have as simple as a window breaker and a seatbelt cutter and a proper medical gear for that kind of trauma is on the bikes. So he's on park lane, he wraps it around a pole, and the car's on fire. We can extract the client from the vehicle if possible, right? We don't need the jaws of life. But we'll other than just doing first aid on him, waiting for the professionals, we can extract him of the vehicle. We can punch in a window, cut the seatbelt, get him out. That's the extent that we can do, right? You wrap your car around the pole. At least your guys have a way. If you're not mangled in there, we need the jaws of life. We can get you out from the window.
And obviously that is a more realistic scenario, going 20 miles an hour around London, where everything seems to be 20 miles an hour at the moment. But what about the protectors out there that said, I love this, but wow, what a compliance nightmare, what an insurance nightmare. What would you say to that?
I would say they're 100% correct. We had the discussion before going live. The liability is insane. I have faith in my product, so I know it's not going anywhere, and we proved it already since 1 April. But it takes quite a bit of bookings to make it at the end of the year and renew your liability. I'm not going to discuss. Nobody wants to hear the details, but it is fully insured at the maximum I can get for liability, public liability, but it also for just I'm a new entrepreneur, so I've learned a lot about that, but I'm fully legal to have qualified close protection operators on high-powered motorbikes in proximity of ultra expensive assets, and then it's fully covered. So that's it, but it's extremely expensive.
And I guess that's then the trade-off, because and maybe that's what will enable niche operators like yourself to flourish, because the moment some of the multinational operators go, I'm going to offer this, and then they say, by the way, legal counsel, it's going to be this much.
I didn't. Yes. You're smart. Look, I was stunned when it was a seed of an idea in August last year, and it became a real idea in October, and then I started looking at, and like I said at the beginning, I've been riding for my entirety of my life, so I know what it costs to insure a motorbike. I did not expect that. because of the involvement of actually fighting crime in proximity of these guys. Can you hear me? Is that?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Anyway, it was a shock, sticker shock and liability shock, but I did like I do with everything. I got smart with it, and I understand my liability, and I do understand that it's connected. That's why everything that you'll see in town, the MSU riders do, it's all within the law, because I would lose in an instant if my underwriter finds out that I'm doing anything that's outside the Road Act. Done. MSU is dead. So,
which is perhaps why you will succeed, and others will kind of say, "Oh no, come on." There's economies of scale in what you're doing because you're doing it, which is kind of fun. Now, funnily enough, we talked on our last Circuit Magazine podcast episode about legal challenges and liability when we interviewed Kerry King Brown about an app. Okay. Now, I'm not going to try and match this to say, right, you're going to be the next available service on an app, but I would say, because your riders are not armed, in London at least, but they are insured. This is exactly the type of thing. And I did get fan mail for the Kerry King Brown interview. I really did. But I would say that this is exactly the type of service that would integrate with something like an app or something like that. I mean, yes, I understand you're very exclusive, but how would people book you?
Well, at the moment they book me, because you said it's exclusive. They book us through email. They go on the website. At the moment, it's a lot of word to mouth. All the big hotels, the big residences in London, the staff, the concierge, the gold key concierge, they're all briefed on it. So at the moment, it comes either through them or word to mouth. It's a new service. Bad experiences or how do you say it, bad review will happen. I'm sure there's going to be a client that at some point is not in love with the service, but at the moment the feedback is amazing. They're like, finally, where were you guys for 20 years? So far so good. So I mean, the reviews are good. So hey, let me put you in touch when this guy flies his car in. And that's the type of client. Sorry to diverge a little bit, but that's why I don't think an app would work, because I'm targeting the ultra high net worth. These guys flying their cars in from other countries, or the guys living in here that have, so far we haven't booked any, and to me is a crazy call, but like a lower end Lamborghini, let's say. So far, these guys are not interested. I might work on the price point, because my price point is pretty expensive, because now, let's explain the price. I don't have to say the price. If someone would find out, they just have to send an email. But it is a pricey niche product, multiple reasons. And if you talk to Sebastien, the business owners, I'm the only one that provides a service, so I can charge whatever I want. But it's not the reason that it's expensive. It's the liability. And twofold on that answer of liability is, it costs me a lot to put these bikes on the road. These bikes are premium Ducati brand, so they're expensive. But also, I pay my guys well, because now, forget about the background of like, hey, the guy did a career in whatever, and then he should be paid a lot of money because of experience. No. He's now protecting someone. He's doing he's doing all the skill set that an EP operator needs to be able to do. Plus, he's riding a motorbike at the same time as he's doing that. Takes attention span and skills, right? And then he's in London. He's riding a motorbike in London traffic. That's another level of danger. So there's the danger to self because you're a bodyguard. There's the danger of riding a motorbike. There's the danger of riding a motorbike in London, one of the busiest cities in the world. So you put these three together, my guys make a good rate because I have to. They're putting their life in danger, not just for the type of work they're doing, for just, having a car accident, losing a leg. You understand? So I pay my guys more, I charge more. The liability costs more, I have to charge more.
Yeah, and even that totally makes sense, because if you are going to hire something that is covered, you need to make sure it's covered. And then again, that's why I sort of think you said in the future maybe other people can do what you do. I wonder if it's worth their while, because if the more you specialize, the more you have economies of scale doing what you're doing, your cover covers what you're doing.
Yeah.
I feel that there's a great niche there. But, and this is totally just because I'm remembering it, we had Joe Ortera from VDI on a few times and a lot of events, and Joe does a different type of driving, a different type of evasive driving and covert protection and all that, right? But he mentioned in the future with a lot of these electric cars that will have immobilizers if someone just steps in front of the car, right? I see the Outriders, the mobile security units, as a great way to counter that threat, because it shouldn't be that a supercar that could be electric and could have an immobilizer if someone just stands right in front of it. The bike just seems to clear up that challenge.
Yes, you're so right. Look, again, I said I wouldn't go in details with the SOPs, but look, let me list a few that we have. So we have the A to B SOPs, right? That's moving through traffic and letting him enjoy his car. Okay, there's multiple stuff that we do during the A to B. There's the in-bus, D-bus. We're not dropping normal, good old UK EP SOPs. The client is safe D-busing and in-busing. Okay, it just looks different. We have all the threats. So all the threats are covered, all of them, from the low, the least dangerous ones to the most dangerous ones. But we also have what you just said is, and I explained it a bit earlier, it's protecting the asset, the car, from damage. But by doing that, we are ensuring that people around him are aware. So it just speaks to what you just spoke about, the immobilizer. We have to work with the public to ensure that this car is moving around London safely. So it's both safe. And one of my officers was saying, look, we're even making it safer for bystanders. But by protecting the asset, we're making it safer for everybody, right? There's also other SOPs that we have in place to facilitate finding parking. So this client, if he tells us, hey, I'm going to show off a little bit, I'm meeting with the guys, other cars, they meet up with other cars, and then we're all going to convoy to, again, I'm going to use the same place, a private club somewhere, and we're going to have lunch. The fact that we're both, at one MSU, it works better with two MSUs, 4 riders, but even it works with 2 riders, is one protects the car. But when, we know London a lot, so like, okay, we're 3 turns or we're 5 minutes away from the venue. Because motorbikes can lane split and they're never stuck in traffic, it's easy to make the time and space assessment. One of the riders just shoots off to the venue. So you literally just get a rolling advance, right? So this rider, and that's why I was saying we're starting to use it into the conventional EP for advances and stuff, but rolling advances. Now my chase call can also be an advance because he will be there 10 minutes prior. If you don't need a crazy, a real advance, like if you just need an advance to see it, okay, it's all clear, you can come in, parking there. We do that with the bikes.
The hasty advance.
Yeah, hasty. I call it, in the company, we call it rolling advance. So, 5 minutes out, 10 minutes out, depending on traffic, it's easy to make an assessment. One rider is like, hey, I'm off on the comms, boom, gone. So when the package of now one hyper call and one rider, so 0.5 MSU, shows up, there's a nice MSU guy that's pointing here, you can parallel park right there. And then the advance is done, So that facilitates a lot of stuff. And it's so much easier to plan when your advance will never be late. Think about it, right? I take that out of the equation. you got 2 MSUs, which means 4 bikes. It's so much easier. These 2 riders, they're with the client in front, showing off a little, it looks good. And you got eyes forward. So I'm not saying the guys on front, they don't protect, but they can't really protect because all the threats arrive from the back. Think mopeds, right? Or the sides from the sidewalk. So the guys in front are mostly there for a show, but also they're easy to punch out. Hey guys, change of venue. We're on 2-way radios, by the way, right? I won't disclose what we use for radios, but it's not. We have a mesh system, like the Bluetooth system for internal comms, but we're also on 2-way. Not unlike what the SEG has. So it's easy for them to shoot. And because I just told you we're on 2-way radio, then when they're at the venue, they get in comms way before the Bluetooth would pick up again to be on the internal channel, right? You understand that? My guys can be at the venue and now they revert to their 2-way radio, UHF, and they're on comms with the convoy coming up, the MSU with the clients coming, and just like normal EP, they're on comms. They're not just on Bluetooth. See, that's a nugget I didn't really want to get the competition, but here we go. It's 2-way radio, Bluetooth.
And that is very handy, but also for a potential customer of yours to sort of realize. And as I say, I think you're going to, who am I to really think this? But I think that in further developing your niche, or if for the American audience, niche,
yeah.
I don't know why they go there. Anyway, so
I'm changing my ways. I'm learning the British ways.
Well, by developing that, I just see that your economies of scale get better, whereas it would just be much more hassle for new entrants if they haven't got your background and they haven't got your insurance and they haven't got the economies of scale. Anyway, so I think that's perfect. It's a far cry from where we kind of started, which was the idea of maybe John Wick and James Bond and all of that. But yet there is still that kind of pizzazz.
Let me tell you, you just said John Wick. I need to explain something because, maybe you'll find me on LinkedIn, but, Sebastien Bouchard on LinkedIn. And these days on my, it's not a business page, it's my personal page, but owner of 242. And I discussed MSUs a lot. And there's so much great comment from our community. And they're asking questions, rightfully so, because it's so new. And there's not that many. I thought there would be more naysayers, but no, the guys are just making sure I'm covering all my bases. There's real pros on my LinkedIn that are like, hey, have you thought of this? Have you thought of that? And at first, because I refuse, and you'll understand why, I will never post on social media what we look like if we go covert. How do we do covert or low vis? I don't. It's stupid. Criminals look at my LinkedIn also, right? So guys all they see is marketing pictures that we look like John Wick. That was literally the reason that MSU riders, when they're on black bikes with black suits, black tie, black shirt, black jacket, is literally the movie John Wick. Like, I'm not going to hide that. I didn't come up with that. I saw John Wick. I'm like, I'm going to put John Wick on bikes for the overt posture. There's 2 reasons that we do it. I explained the one is to protect the asset. So we need a show of force and we need the moped to know that this car is protected. That way he doesn't even attempt. Because yes, he'll break the window. We'll be on him within 3 seconds because we're right there with bikes. But then the cause damage. So we need an overt posture to protect an IM asset, right? We agree on that. But what we found by accident, so the second reason we're in a business suit, okay, not a black leather riding suit, a business suit with a floppy jacket in the wind with a tie. There's a reason that we discovered by accident as we were training in Central, is that it mesmerizes the public so much that it helps us moving around. And I'll explain that. The client's going to make a right turn. There's traffic coming. And then there's a rider that comes alongside the outside of the vehicle just to slow roll, just to slow down the traffic. Even black cabs don't honk. They don't. They slow down and they stop and they're confused. And I love that. They're confused. They're like, Why is there a guy with a black helmet, black visor, black suit, black tie on a motorbike? They're just confused. So it stops the aggression. Because is it a movie? Are they shooting a movie? Like, people smile. They're like, what is this? They send us thumbs up because they're like, what is it? If we were on a black leather suit, like a racing suit, right? It would protect my riders, no problem. But then it looks like a threat. I consulted with a police officer. Hey, if you saw two riders all blacked out, there's no identification on my bikes, they're just black, it raises a bit of an eyebrow. Like, are they criminals or are they just riders? Why are they dressed the same? There's an option for a cop to be what is this? In a suit, you're not a criminal. You're wearing a two-piece suit. You're not a criminal. And it gets their brain into it resets the OODA loop. They're like, what is going on? And it just helps us. And it's high profile, and it looks good. So the client's happy when he wants a show of force, right? It just, let's face it just looks cool. But we discovered it also helps us because people are confused. When we're waiting, when we're securing the asset while the client's inside somewhere, people stop. And again, in EP, it's not good to attract attention. But in that instance, because it's an overt posture protecting a car, it's okay to attract a bit of attention. And people are just like, are you a movie? What is this? Like, and they're just asking and they carry on, right? When we protect the asset outside and the client decided to book us in low vis, or, another word, covert, then it just looks different and people don't know we're protecting a car. You understand? I don't want people to listen to this thinking we're just John Wicks on motorbikes. It's easily scalable down. What's hard is scale up. The reason that all the marketing and we designed it to super overt, cool looking, it's because we think that it's the way to protect a high visibility asset, right? With deterrence. But also that's the top you can get. The picture I went with what the industry expect and everything is low vis. If I did that, it would work. But then let's say the rapper that's like, hey, I want full bikes and I want to put up a show. Then how do I do that? I need to, how am I going to do this? And then, scaling up is hard. Scaling down is so easy. Yeah.
Like it. All right. Well, this is great. Thanks for being so open and helping dispel myths and look into why this is especially important in some of the more busy, go slow cities. A lot of cities are making everyone drive really, really slowly. I really appreciate you coming on. Well,
Thank
Sebastien, I'll put all of your links in the show notes for the podcast so that people can see and everything. But yeah, mobile security units for ultra high net worth individuals. I think a very, very interesting topic, integrates with a lot of other sessions on the Circuit Magazine podcast. So yeah, Sebastien, thanks very much. This has been another edition of the Circuit Magazine podcast. Well, thank you very much, Sebastien. And you know what? I'm excited about this, Shaun. These motorcycle outriders for ultra high net worth individuals. It just seems like a no-brainer. It's quite niche. It seems very expensive, but we were on with him for a very long time, actually longer than our usual Circuit Magazine podcast session. What have you taken away from the sort of the angle today?
I did enjoy it, and it was like what you said in the intro, it's like talking about the John Wick movie, thinking of these motorcycle outriders. But no, he did raise some really good points. Some places where a motorcycle may, it can act as a force multiplier to your regular security team. It doesn't need to replace your security team. It can be an additional layer of security. And he did highlight some areas where it would actually be, ahead of your regular teams. For instance, I think Joe Otero spoke on a previous podcast about, some of the newer vehicles now have an electric mobilizer where if someone steps out in front of it, the car's not going to be able to move forward. You are not going to have that problem with a motorcycle because they're more agile, mobile, they can get around that. So there's a definite protective advantage there by using motorcycles in that capacity. And, many other things he mentioned, what better way tool you can use as an advance, fire one of the motorcycles away, they can go and secure your parking spot. They can get through traffic nice and quick. And also when you're driving around in a £2 million car with your window down, if you didn't have that additional layer of security, I'm guessing, you're going to be pretty nervous when you park it. When you go into Harrods to buy your cappuccino, you're going to be scared leaving that car, that someone comes. I mean, he mentioned some numbers. Someone had their car scratched and it was £100,000 to get the scratch repaired. So, it's a nice level of insurance having them motorcycle riders with you, I guess.
And it shines a light on how these are people. Yeah, I mean, they're rich, but they're people, and they want to feel like, as you say, they want to get a cappuccino. Like, and there's enough opportunity for them to be covert when they want. But if they do have something nice and they drive around in it, this helps with that psychology. Plus, the facilitation angle. Always people are paying a premium for facilitation. That actually reminds me all the way back with Kenji Okamoto before the Tokyo Olympics, where he said in Japan, that's all I can do. I can only do facilitation.
Mm-hmm. No, but it was interesting going back to your comment at the start as well about the asking if you thought this could be something to attract newbies in and create a careers and people want to become motorcycle outriders. And I think one of the things, the more you think about it, there is a lot of safety risks of high-speed driving, manoeuvring through traffic. It can be quite hazardous if you are a new outrider. So I think, just going back to them previous points, I think it is a role for those people who are experienced, both in security and in riding, high-power motorbikes. It's not for someone who's just going to go and get an SIA license and go and get a moped license and then they can carry out the role. It is going to be a specialist niche area that you would have to have experience in to be able to deliver that service for sure.
Yeah, and it would probably attract people that need the variety, that need the excitement. I think acting John Wick. Maybe it'll help you get an extra in a John Wick movie. Who knows?
Yeah, you never know. I mean, the doors that will open up when you're providing that service, I'm sure there'll be lots of people knocking on your door.
I like it. Well, I did see some social media put out there, and I think he's going to write or has written an article for the magazine. So this is, bringing the pages of the magazine to life.
Yeah, I mean, it's, thinking outside the box. Not a lot of what you find, a lot of companies all provide the same service. They try to maybe package it in a different way, but this is a complete niche that you don't see many people doing. So I wish him all the best. I hope it goes really well. It sounds like he's invested an awful lot of money in his branding, getting insurance companies on board. So I think hats off to him, and really excited to see how it goes.
Fantastic. Well, maybe we'll have a protected mobility segment at the next CP Tech Forum in London in January. I think maybe that would be a good angle to have.
And he can come in on a motorcycle.
Hey, yeah, ride up the stairs.
Yeah,
I'm not sure the Grand Connaught Rooms would like it, but I don't know. No publicity is bad publicity, maybe. Well, also coming up, I will see a few great friends of the industry in Phoenix this August 16th, 17th. I'll mention a few names. There's other names, but people know and love Max Segal, Chuck Randolph, Chris Story, Christian West. We'll have previous podcast guests, Alan Sakella, also there. We'll have Scott Walker, who's also been on the podcast. Rhett Weddle, who I think is not on the podcast yet, but definitely should be. Monica Dupenon Rodriguez, who I think many people know. And I think just a nice community. Obviously, I'm really chuffed. I'm going out to the 7th annual event, so lucky me. But if any of our listeners are in, especially the Southwest United States, it'll be a pleasure to see you there. What else have we got coming up, Shaun?
But we always talk about it at the end of a podcast. We've got the next issue of the Circuit magazine coming up. We are trawling our pages and our contacts, trying to get some more articles in. Be great to hear some new people, actually. Something like what Sebastian's doing with the motorcycle, something new, something fresh. Let's bring the pages to life. Be good. If you have got a specific niche or something that will be of interest to our readers, we'd love to hear from you. Get it into our email address. I guess we can have that in the show notes.
Mm-hmm.
And if you've got a specific niche that you want to talk about, let's get you on the podcast. Please get in touch.
Absolutely. And feedback welcome. I know that sometimes we go without some feedback, and then someone says, "Oh yeah, I hated that. I love that." It's like, oh right, well, give us that feedback to help improve and develop. I knew we would get some fan mail from last week's session on an app for bodyguards, right? But we did get basically, good on you. We don't know if the legality of a bodyguard app will be sorted out anytime soon, but good on you for trying. I thought I'd share that with everyone because sometimes we just say, oh, we got nice feedback, or we got this feedback, or whatever. Especially we joke about the episode on robotics, but I think that was quite a constructive criticism. So more answers on a postcard. We are very much open to hearing from you.
Yeah, all feedback is good feedback, and we love to hear it.
Fantastic. All right, well, mobile security unit, motorbike outriders for high net worth individuals. Thank you, Sebastien Bouchard, for coming on. I know it's your first ever podcast, so it's a pleasure to host you, for your first podcast. We really look forward to seeing you again very soon. And this has been another exciting edition of the Circuit Magazine podcast.
You have been listening to the Circuit Magazine podcast. Be sure to subscribe and be sure to not miss an episode.